You can't open the front door and close the back door at the same time. And in senior living, that could be the difference between thriving and surviving. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. For those of you who don't know about us, CCR Growth is a full-service marketing and growth agency that's exclusive to the senior living industry. And through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, the strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. Whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or industry leader, this show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today's guest is Brenna Diede, Executive Director at Cogier Senior Living Community in Oregon, certified end-of-life doula, and marketing-minded leader with a decade of diverse experience in senior living, long-term care, and hospice. In this conversation, we have a lot to cover, but we're going to talk about the connection between operations and occupancy, her unique training exercise on closing the back door to improve retention, and why relationships, not ad budgets, still rule in smaller markets, and how her experience as an end-of-life doula, which I love, has transformed the way she approaches leadership in senior living. So, Brenna, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to get into this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jerry. I'm super excited to share my background and hopefully help some folks diversify their skill set out there.
This is going to be great. You've held a lot of roles in marketing, obviously, in operations and even hospice. How have those different experiences shaped your approach as an executive director today?
Yeah, so I started my career pre-pandemic in senior living. And at that time, senior living changes every day, right? But I was starting out as a receptionist. I was still in school and didn't really know what I wanted for my career, but fell in love with senior living pretty quickly. So then it was just kind of the fine tuning, staying in the long-term care industry and deciding which route was best for me. I've always been drawn to sales and marketing. I have a background in public relations, but operationally, that's kind of what I've been drawn to. So shifted from senior living, briefly went into public education, which was wonderful and had its own challenges. Missed senior living far too much, had to get right back into it, and then took a brief break to go into hospice, and that's where I discovered the end-of-life doula pathway and gained some knowledge there. So it's really just been a personal journey of finding the ways that I can feel the most fulfilled in helping older adults, whether through operations, marketing, or supporting them at the end of their life, which has been extremely fulfilling and given me a lot of insight into how to better serve my residents now that I'm leading a building.
I recently had an interview with someone from a PR company, and they were telling me that the two industries that they focus on is education and senior living. It couldn't be any more on opposite ends of the spectrum, but there's so many similarities between the two. I mean, and you having that PR background, I mean, have you kind of seen that too? Are there some similarities there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about senior living, it's communal living, right? So we're living in larger groups. We're living with other people. And what's the one thing that you can always count on people to do? It's talk, right? So relating to the public, that's kind of the biggest part for me. It's always my center focus. How do we talk to each other? How do we talk about each other? How do we open the door for conversation in a way that fosters growth, acceptance, and destigmatizing, all of the scary things that we hear all the time. And it truly starts within, starting with your residents, your staff members. And public relations is arguably the biggest part for me. So it's hard for some people to see, but it's definitely there.
It's a huge piece, and it's a missing piece. PR for a long time, people have equated it to newspapers and TV media. And now that things have kind of shifted to an online social media presence for most news organizations, a lot of senior living providers haven't thought about that as an avenue, but it's even easier to get more coverage nowadays than it was back in the day, because you only had one paper or one TV station, and now you've got multiple social channels and all the networks that are on there. They even have anchors that are just for social media. So I think there's so much additional exposure that people can get.
Absolutely, absolutely. You think about it nowadays, you're right. You have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these different things, podcasts, right? However you want to ingest your media nowadays, there's a way to do it. And striking all those channels at once, I mean, it's helpful for everybody. We have hearing impaired residents, we have vision impaired residents. So, getting things out to them too, and to the public, to our target audience, same deal. You got to know how to talk to people, and you got to know the channels to do it.
That's true. Yeah, everybody consumes content differently nowadays too. So that's a good point. I kind of got sidetracked. I wanted to ask you about your experience as an end of life doula. I think that's probably something that most people don't know about, or didn't even know was a thing. What did you take away from that experience that senior living providers should better understand?
Yeah, I mean, we're serving older adults. It's just the way it goes that older adults are at the point where they're more likely to be closer to the end of their life, right? So as an end of life doula, supporting people through anticipatory grief, that's the biggest thing that I saw. The grief that you feel before an actual loss. I experience as a provider, my residents experience for themselves, for their friends in the community, my staff members experience on behalf of our residents. So understanding that, understanding how to talk about grief, how to open the doors to accepting more care, to accepting these conversations surrounding the end of life. It's a chapter we don't often like to discuss, but I think truly I'm better for it, for having the experience of seeing people at the end of their lives, learning how to support them, and also seeing the signs well beforehand and bringing in supports to my residents before it comes to the point of crisis. So there's definitely a lot that I learned, that we could sit here and probably spend 2 hours just talking about that, but also just on a human level, right? The company that I work for now, one of their pillars of success is human focus, and that's why I was drawn to work here. We're all going to, unfortunately, pass away at some point, and the sooner that we get in touch with that human element of understanding that we're all in the same playing field, we're all in the same boat. That common phrase, there's two things for sure in life, death and taxes.
Yeah, true.
It's definitely, it rings true. And when you can connect with people and again, foster that acceptance and that compassion, it makes me a better leader. It makes me have harder conversations sooner. It helps me support those people who might be grieving a loss of their ambulation, grieving the loss of their sight, grieving the loss of their hearing, grieving the loss of the home they had to sell to move here, accepting that grief, moving through that grief, and accepting a new chapter. I think that's probably the best way to sum it up. But again, there's just a million things that I could discuss about being an end of life doula that I will always hold close to my heart.
I love that you brought grief into it, and not just grieving someone at the end of their life, losing that person, but that loss of things along the way. There's milestones that some people lose their independence. Some people, they lose assets. They lose their home. They have to get rid of some of their belongings, the things that they've grown to love for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Now they have to simplify their life in order to move into a community, which is often the case. So, and then even the family members too, and they're grieving. If somebody's in assisted living or memory care or skilled nursing, there's definitely a grieving process there, because the mom or dad that you once knew is no longer the same as they once were. So that's a very difficult process. I mean, I saw all four of my grandparents pass in different ways, and it was very difficult to watch that whole experience unfold. So you as a leader too, I mean, being an executive director and having that training, being able to pass that down to your team, that level of compassion, has got to be such a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. I mean, that last chapter of our lives, we focus a lot on the birth, right? Birth of new babies. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's such a good feeling, right? I love when one of my friends has another child that we can celebrate, but that last chapter too. I mean, when you're reading a book, that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for that last chapter to close it all out. People forget that we have a lot more choice than we think, especially if we're prepared. So absolutely. I mean, like you were saying, not even just the end of our lives, but anticipating the grief of changing jobs, changing homes. There's so many things that we go through where we have to acknowledge the ceasing of one thing and the beginning of another. So absolutely.
In my master's program, there was something called opportunity cost, which was a big thing that we focused on a lot. If you're going to move and do something else, then you have to leave something behind, essentially. You can't be in two places at the same time. So if you're going to make this choice, then you're sacrificing something else. Every stage of life, you're essentially doing that. There's an opportunity cost. So I think you are grieving every single time, whether you realize it or not. Yeah, I love that. You said something last time we spoke that really stuck with me, the idea of keeping the back door closed while opening the front door. I love that phrase. Can you break down what that means and why it's so crucial in senior living?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in the sense of occupancy, right? Keeping people here happy is the one thing that I can ask for as a leader. It shows that, my residents are appreciating the work that we're all doing as a team. And it also shows me that they want to be here. They're advocating to live here. They want other people to experience living here. So keeping the back door shut to me is maintaining such a good rapport between my staff and my residents, between my building and the community, that I don't have to worry about those dissatisfied residents every month wanting to leave. So it's kind of a balancing act, right? Keeping the back door shut is a whole job in and of itself. It takes a village. Keeping the front door open takes a village as well. So there's two pieces to this, right? And I know the last time we talked, we had a whole conversation about what this looks like to me and how I portray that to my team. But getting my staff involved, first and foremost, getting them to understand our community is the first step. What is our community about? How do you want to feel when you come into the community? Why would you want to stay in a community like this? What's the benefit of living in this community? Once my staff members are able to speak to that, my residents see it, right? If they want to be there, we're setting an example for our residents. We're guiding our residents. But keeping the back door closed, making sure that we're fine tuning every day. We're always committing to excellence, being better than the day before, never settling, because my residents don't ever settle, right? Doesn't matter how good I think I'm doing. My residents will knock on my door every day and tell me something that I'm not seeing. As one person with one set of eyes, I have 80, 90, 100 other sets of eyes who are seeing things and helping me be better. So it's also that not fearing accountability, but seeing it as a blessing, right? That helps me keep my back door shut. It gives me the opportunity to know what we can improve on. But again, letting my staff members know and having the approach of, when I tell you that something's wrong, it's us against the issue, not us versus each other. That also is huge, right? But again, back to the occupancy, bringing people in. I can do it all day and all night, right? I love sales and marketing. I love senior living. I feel really confident in selling it because I know it so well. But the tricky part, which is a daily effort, is keeping that back door closed.
I love that concept too. I mean, the term I use is feedback loops, right? That's such a big important concept for us, is just to make sure that we're continually talking to the communities that we manage to make sure that they're happy with the results they're getting and that what we're doing is helpful. And if it's not, how can we change it? How's your leads? How's the sales process going? How many tours have we booked? Just to make sure that we're hitting all those metrics that they want to. So yeah, that's our way of keeping that back door closed. One of the things that you mentioned too is there was a specific training exercise that you use with your team that illustrates that concept. Can you share that with our audience?
Yeah, and I'm sure this is going to get a few laughs for better or for worse, but it's worked for me. So what I do with my staff, and this is an all staff training. This isn't just marketing. This isn't just operations. This is everybody, my dining staff, my housekeepers, everyone, right? They all have a value in this and they all are very necessary. I'll set them up in a room like I'm in where we have, a front door on one end, a back door on the other, quite literally. And I'll have, everybody line up and then one staff member in the middle. And I'll ask them, keep one door open, keep the other door open. Ask them to shut one door and open the other at the same time while they're standing in the middle of the room. You see a lot of stretched out arms, looking at you like, this is impossible, Brenna. What's the point of this? And then I ask them, you can choose one other staff member to help you do this, but you can't tell them which door to open or close. You just have to communicate with the look on your face or pointing, right? And to me, what I've seen from this exercise time and time again is First and foremost, it's funny, it's engaging. They have a good time doing it when you can use your body and learn at the same time. Especially with our younger staff members, they love it. But also, it's teamwork, it's team building, it's displaying the exact reason why we have this exercise. We lean on each other to do different things in this community. I can't do it all. You can't do it all. Nobody can do it all, right? So seeing them try to do it solo and then watch them pick. And it's funny because it's always, whoever they feel most comfortable with in the community, which tells me another thing too, right? If it's a housekeeper picking a housekeeper, I'm thinking, why aren't they picking a dining staff member? Do they not know our dining team? Why aren't they picking me, their leader, right? Do they not feel comfortable calling on me for help? So it shows me a bunch of different things, right? And then, when they get to that point where one of them is shutting the back door, the other one is opening the front door, it's like this big celebration, right? We make a big deal out of it. It's so stupid and so fun, but it gets the point across, right? And it's
Yeah.
this exercise that, again, displays the importance of both jobs. You need both people to do it. You need people on every corner making this happen. So that's the exercise. It's the front door, back door deal. And again, I've been doing this at every community, every company I've worked for, right? Because it's not just senior living. Marketing is PR. It is operations. So everybody needs to know the importance of keeping who is here happy and keeping the people coming in at the same time. So that's the exercise.
No, that's great. I love that. And I love that you get all that extra insight from it too. It's not just showing people the concept. It's also you getting to see who's working together, who trusts who, to give a little bit more insight into how you can do a little bit more team building. So
Yeah.
talking about marketing, you've got a strong background in it. How do you bring that perspective into your current leadership role?
I'm obviously in operations now, so my title doesn't say it, but I'm doing marketing work every day. I'm empowering my salespeople, my CRD, my community relations director, to do their job effectively and to lean on me when they need that operational piece. But above all that, again, it's committing every day to excellence. So, some days I'm coming in, I tour the building every day. I walk through with fresh eyes. I try to think, if I was walking in here from my mom, what would I want to see? Am I seeing that? Empowering my staff to know what I'm doing, to know why it's important, to know everything about our community so that if somebody walks in and they go, do you have transportation? Do you have medication management? My mom has fallen a few times and she needs one of those things. I don't know what they're called. You press them and the ambulance comes. And they say, I know what you're talking about. Not only do we offer that, but I'd love to chat with you and see why your mom is falling and see if a community might be a good fit for her. Again, people think that housekeepers, dining staff, care staff don't need to know those things, but they absolutely do. They're providing care. They're our frontline workers. They need to know the benefit of what they're providing so that they can be empowered to continue providing it. So it's a marketing effort for all of us at the same time, right? We're pooling all of our efforts together. And every day in my stand-up meeting too, here's what we have coming in the building. Their name is John Doe. They were a veteran in the Second World War, the Korean War, right? They love playing bridge. Their favorite food is pickles. Knowing these things about them and saying it in stand-up because it shows them, I care to know these things about this person. They might not move into our community, but again, centering that operational piece around human focus, around who this person is, appreciating everybody for the value that they might be able to bring to the table. It empowers them to get involved with marketing things. Also the creative aspect of it, creating flyers. I mean, my activities gal, she loves it. She could do it all day and all night creating event flyers. I tell her, hey, go across the street to the building next door, see if they want to come. They're a competitor, but we're here to serve seniors. We're here to do the job, right? Go see if they want to come over. They love it, right? It's the interaction, it's the engagement. So obviously maintaining my budget, operating my building is my main focus, but I do all of that with marketing in mind. I do all of that with growth in mind, which looks different for everything, but it's helped us so far in building up.
I love that you're doing that with the entire team too, because I think when people think of marketing, they just think about advertising, right? They just think about running ads. They think about email campaigns and things like that. They're not thinking about the communications aspect of it. And marketing is about telling a story. And if everyone on your team understands what's at stake and understands what that story is and can contribute to that. If you ask any person on your team what something is, and they'll be able to tell you, how beneficial is that for anyone who might be touring the community, because they might be speaking to any one of your staff members at any time. And that person shouldn't just be like, oh, you need to talk to the marketing manager. One community that we're helping with their sales process, their front desk doesn't know anything. Every time they answer the phone, they'll ask a question and they'll say, oh, you need to speak to our executive director, or you need to speak to the marketing team, or they, even worse, they just send them to the website and they say, you need to go to the website and fill out the form. That's the first impression somebody has with your brand and with your community. You have to make sure your team is fully on board, understands everything that's going on, and can answer any question intelligently at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another piece of that too is, I mean, I started out as a front desk person, right? I started out at that point, which many of us did. That's the beauty of senior living. You hear it all the time. Executive directors down the road, I started as a server. I started as a caregiver. Hearing that is great. And I like to empower my staff too, to throw out there, like, you have the potential to move up. You have the potential to do more than what you're doing now if you want to, right? And part of that empowerment is learn everything that you can, do more than what is expected of you, and be okay with taking a little less of the credit sometimes. And that's how you'll go far. And then it also benefits me too, because if I have a server who's been here since 2019 and by 2026 they're my hospitality manager, what does that say about my community? That says I want to see people grow. I want to keep people here and empower them. I want them to stay with their residents because they've built that relationship already. They know their residents. Their residents know them, and they like the staff member enough to keep them around, right? Because I would hear about it if they didn't. So
Yeah.
that's huge, right? Empowering your staff members to take on a little bit more and see how they do with it. And it's our job as leaders to push them in that direction and find what they're good at, find what they're drawn to, and empower them to move up. And it's mutually beneficial. It's a symbiotic relationship 99% of the time.
Yeah. And not everybody's a career driven person. Sometimes there's people who just want to do the job, but there are those people who, I mean, I recently interviewed somebody who they started off in the dining hall in high school, and now there's the CEO of
Yeah,
a senior living group of communities now. So, I mean, you never know. It's one of
true.
those industries where people just fall in love with the industry. They fall in love with helping people, and then they just, they climb the ranks over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know there's probably a lot of executive directors out there too who probably feel a little disconnected from the marketing and sales function of their community. I mean, what advice would you give to help them get more involved and aligned?
It's down to personality a lot of the time, right? If you got into operations to get into operations, you might not be a sales and marketing minded person. And that's okay, right? We all have our strong suits. I get it. I would recommend to those people who are operations people, think about it in terms of how is this going to benefit you and the relationships in your community. At the end of the day, marketing and sales is relationships. So if you think about it in terms of that, another thing I recommended it on a call this morning to someone, practicing your pregnant pauses and practicing your conversation skills. Because once you feel comfortable talking with someone, asking about their life, who they are, you become more comfortable in having those sales minded conversations, those discovery conversations. So, for example, it's the pregnant pauses, right? Practicing that awkward silence, but letting people breathe, letting people have a moment to maybe fill in the blanks that they wouldn't have said if you were to jump right in, because that's where the magic happens, right? And that's a small step you can do today to determine, am I having the right type of conversation? Am I sitting and listening? Am I absorbing everything? It also gives you more time to take everything in. But I get it. It's hard. It's not for everyone. But get in touch with your CRD. Have a good relationship with your salesperson. Contact your corporate salesperson. Say, hey, can I hop on one of these trainings? Can I hear what you guys are talking about? Maybe not pitch in, but just hear it. And sit in on a tour. Walk around, watch a tour, be honest with people, be open with people. Say, I'm the executive director here. I just kind of wanted to see what you're seeing and walk around with you guys and experience our community from your lens and make sure we're doing everything all right. It doesn't have to be that typical sales minded conversation you have thinking open and then you got to close the deal by the end of the day. Just focus on the conversation, focus on the communication, focus on that piece that's, again, very human. Because we all have conversations every day. If you're an operator, you're probably having much harder conversations. So you can do it. That's another thing. You can do it. Sales is not scary. The worst thing they can do is say no. And at the end of the day, showing up is 9 times out of 10 the biggest piece, right? That's half of the battle is just showing up. So show up, be present, practice your communication, go home to your spouse or your friends and practice that pause. It's going to feel weird, but once you get the hang of it, you'll realize, that sales conversation, the discovery is the biggest piece. And you can do that as a server, housekeeper, caregiver, med tech, nurse. Doesn't matter. Everybody can do it. Everybody can learn it. I'm a huge, huge advocate for that.
I feel like if once you hear no a couple times, it definitely lessens the blow.
Absolutely.
You get used to it. Yeah. You brought up a good point. I think somebody with a marketing background like yourself, I think you would probably, well, you do. You understand the intrinsic value that marketing brings to the table, the qualitative value of it. It's not just about the numbers. It's about sharing that message and telling the story and connecting with people who are the right fit for your community, those kinds of things. Somebody from an operational background that might be more of a numbers person, they might be looking at the quantitative aspect. What's our cost per lead? How much is our cost per acquisition? How long is our sales process? Do you think that somebody from a marketing background would inherently be better suited for an executive director role than someone from operations?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hot take, but I do. I really
Yeah,
do. Again, as much as I think everyone can learn how to have these conversations, a marketing-minded executive director will run a higher occupied building. They'll run a better budget, simply because we see the duality, right? We see the importance. We see and we understand the marketing aspect inside and out. Um, but then again, it's one of those things that you can learn, absolutely. But coming from a marketing background myself, I use marketing in hospice all the time because you have to talk to families about the benefit of something that nobody wants to talk about. If you can sell something that nobody wants to even discuss, you're going to be better at sitting down with one of your employees and saying, hey, you're not doing your job and I want to help you get there. You can have harder conversations. I think being a marketing minded person, having that skill set prepares you better than just about anything, right? It's like nursing. The bedside manner is huge. We've all had, interactions at a doctor's office where, you have a really, really good nurse who comes in before the doctor and you take a little breath and you go, okay, I'm in good hands, right? It's that bedside manner that prefaces every conversation, every interaction, everything you do. When you're mindful about your presentation of it, you'll get further. Also, marketing people are competitive, right? So I know as an operator, I want my budget to be the best in the district. I want my accounts receivable to be the cleanest in the company. I want to see hitting milestones day after day after day. Not saying that just plain operators who have no marketing experience aren't like that, but I can tell you it's the way that marketing people are wired. So, and again, I think a lot of this is teachable. When you teach the value of a marketing mindset, when you teach the value of hard conversations, then you start to realize, again, like you were saying, the more times you hear no, the easier it gets. You're like, okay, it's not going to hurt me. I can take a couple no's, right? It's all right. Then the next yes you get is going to feel so much better because it took that few no's, right? So as an operations person, again, you hear no every day. We have it in our budget to do this. I'm usually saying not this month, or maybe we should hold off. And you can say no better when you've been told no, because then you get the excitement of saying, we can this month. Let's do it. Let's open the floodgates. Let's open this new door. So yeah, I mean, I think marketing minded people do make the best operators at the end of the day. But again, I don't want anyone to hear this and go, I've never done marketing. I've never done senior living marketing. I hate talking to people. I just hate selling things. And in that case, I would just say, take a breath. This is not car sales. This isn't tech sales. This isn't even
exactly.
pharmaceutical sales. This is something so much more beautiful and intricate and human focused that's creative, it's empowering, and it's not really selling at the end of the day. It's educating. So I think that's kind of where it lies. Anybody can do it if you have the right mindset, if you have the skill set underneath to explore the possibilities for it.
Yeah, I think to your point, you can have a marketing mindset without the marketing experience. So I think that totally makes sense. You just have to open yourself up to it, right?
Absolutely.
Something else we talked about is you're in a smaller market where word of mouth and local relationships matter more than clicks. What have you found that works best in your area for building visibility and trust?
Hate to say it, goes right back to relationships every single time. I mean, you're going to
Yeah.
catch me saying that, too many times, but really at the end of the day, a great example is I started in this community, this year, right? So I'm fairly new, and had a resident come up to me after the town hall meeting where I introduced myself, and he said, you sent out a letter to our community and it said you live in Dayton, which is a small town about 10 minutes from here. And I said, yeah, I've lived there for a few years. Why do you ask? I said, well, I lived in Dayton. I grew up in Dayton. That's where I'm from. So we had this connection, and by the end of the conversation, he's inviting me to an FFA meeting, a Future Farmers of America meeting. I've never farmed a day in my life, but I'm thinking it's important to him, right? It's important to him. He's opening the door. He's relating to me. We're having this open conversation. So you better bet next FFA meeting, I'm going to march down there. It's 5 minutes from my house, and I'm going to support my resident. And he has friends there, right? So making connections in a way that isn't forced. Again, you don't have to be marketing minded. You have to be relationship minded. If you're cool with hanging out with older adults, that's a big piece of your marketing right there, right? Going to our churches, thinking about, what are my seniors doing when we don't have anything going on? They're going
Hmm.
to church. They're going to the beauty salon down the road that does their perfect perms every Saturday or whatever it might be. They're going down to the bank and the post office. That's how they live their life. That's how they operate. So thinking about things like that, marketing to those places, saying, going to the post office. Hey, if you ever see Betty Sue coming in here and she's not looking so well, or she's telling you that she's going to sell her house or whatever it might be, give her my card and say, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to even tour this building. I know Brenna. She'll have a conversation with you. If you have any questions, even if you need something that ends up being way different than what her community can offer, she'll talk to you. She'll sit down with you. She'll treat you to lunch. She'll treat you to coffee. Who knows? They might not be a resident at the end of the day. They might come and play bridge with my residents, which helps keep the back door closed. I'm bringing new people in for them. I'm bringing new experiences in. So it's maximizing the benefit, right? It's maximizing how we can help people in this small town, right? How we can identify where these people might be going, why they might be going there. Again, post office and bank. We do post office and bank trips twice a week at this point. So if you don't want to drive anymore, hop in the van. Chris will take you down there. Not only that, but we're going to go to a Chinese restaurant afterwards. We're going to make a day of it. So it's understanding the value that they might not even be seeing. And again, like you were saying, in this small town, word travels fast. So if Betty Sue's over here going, I had a great meeting with this gal over at this community, a lot of the time I hear it was nothing like an old folks home. And I love hearing that. Yeah, it's not. These residents do more than I do. They're more active than I am. When I'm at home watching Netflix, they're out at Bridge Club. They're going down the street to church, right? So knowing what might benefit these folks, knowing that we can offer them what they're getting at an expanded or elevated level, and then not being able to have that conversation with them and say, give it a shot, give it a try. Usually if you can get that door open to giving it a shot, giving it a try, whether it's inviting them for a meal, inviting them for an activity, inviting them for an outing and paying for their lunch, that opens the door. The conversation is less scary. It immediately takes that burden off of walking through the door, right?
Hmm.
That's the biggest hurdle, especially out here. You know, we've been a pillar in this community for years. We've changed management. Things have changed. Now it's back to the point where things aren't like they used to be. Come and see the new pillar in the community. Come and see what we now have for you. And it's tough. Little communities, good and bad. It's a little micro ecosystem, right? A microbiome of people that have lived here forever, which I know we were talking about last time too. People, the highest level of move-ins that we get are people who live here, live in this town, live within a certain mile radius. So understanding how important it is to maintain our standing in that small area, that's our primary focus. I could care less about Portland and Salem, which are each 20 miles away from me. What are we doing for the people who live here now? And then we can expand, right? And they might do that expansion for us even.
And that helps dispel that narrative that, people have to give up everything when they move into a community. If you can serve the people who are already in your outlying community, and this is just a way for them to simplify their life, but they can still go to all the stores they love to go to. They can still go to the restaurants they love to go to, all of those things, but just with a much simpler approach to the daily living. I think that's such a good concept. But what I'm dumbfounded by is that we still have this narrative out there that about the old folks home, that there's this whole generation that still believes that that's how communities operate. I mean, how do we get rid of that? How do we do that?
Yeah, I think truthfully, it comes down to, again, opening the door. If
Mm-hmm.
that's the hardest part, people are used to the typical sales model of closing is the hardest part, making the deal is the hardest part. Not in senior living, right? Once they get in here, once they see the benefit, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see this isn't so bad at all. I want to do this. I want to be here. I want to be in a place like this. But it's starting those conversations. It's going out. I mean, as an end of life doula, I held grief groups. That was huge. Going out and starting those conversations. The group started with 1 or 2 people. Then it was 3 and 4. Then it was 10 to 15. Then it was 15 to 20, right? And it's the consistency of getting out there and starting the conversations, right? They're not, again, going to be pleasant right off the bat. And that's okay. You got to be comfortable with that. You got to lean into it because these conversations need to be had either way. Older adults, I mean, we were talking about this the last time we spoke. There's tons of older adults out there, and there's only going to be more. We're seeing this baby boomer generation. We're seeing tons of people who are going to need these services, but it's the fact that they're not seeking them out because they don't know what they are. So, and that goes to PR too, right? Getting out there and understanding how to target your demographic, how to start those conversations in ways that aren't, sales tactics or pushy conversations, but going to the local church, going to the local FFA meeting, just showing up, saying, I'm a young person in their late 20s managing a senior living community. I love it. I eat my meals here, right? What does that show you? That you don't have to be an older adult to enjoy this lifestyle. It's for everyone. We just happen to be targeting older adults. That's who this is for. Having conversations with my family. I made my family do their advanced directives. My parents are in their 60s. Hopefully they got a long way to go, but I'm starting it now so that, in 30 years from now when we're sitting down and mom's not doing so well, I can say, thank God we talked about this 30 years ago and we can just put it to rest. We can just enjoy this time in our lives. We can be present. So same thing. The advanced directive conversation is never fun to have, but you got to have it. Bringing my younger brother in. He's, a junior in college. He's been pulled into my communities a million times. Every community I've ever worked at, I make him stop by because he's young. He enjoys it. He'll play the piano downstairs. He'll play checkers with a resident and bridging that gap. We're all on this planet for the first time. It doesn't matter if you're 90 or if you're 22 years old. I think that's another conversation that bridges that gap, that shows people this isn't an old folks home. It's communal living for older adults. So again, watching your language about it, watching how you talk about senior living, where you talk about senior living, and how you empower your staff to talk about senior living. When they tell their friends, when they go to school or they go home, yeah, I work at an independent living community. I work with a bunch of people, they're in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. We do X, Y, and Z, but the age should be the last thing you think about. It's the last thing that we talk about here. It's the activities. It's the dining. It's the relationships and the community that you feel that really bring it home, that open the door for those conversations.
Yeah. I think the education piece is probably the biggest one from the outside looking in. I tell you, the number one search term that's used when someone's looking for senior living is still nursing home. I mean, tenfold over senior living, retirement community, independent living. And that's unfortunate because I mean, obviously the level of care and the type of community that is so very different. And most communities aren't even nursing homes. That's not even a term we use nowadays. So it's just so
Yeah.
interesting. And then even at home, like you were talking about with your family, I think because we don't live in multi-generational homes anymore, I think there's not enough conversations that are being had around this topic of aging and what that looks like and what your plan is when something, if and when something happens, because it is going to happen. I mean, nobody avoids this situation. Nobody lives forever. We all know at some point we're going to need to make some decisions. And it's unfortunate that most people wait until something happens, and then their options are so limited. So I think that whole education piece, if we could get more comfortable talking about this sooner and help our loved ones understand the process a little bit more, like you're doing for your family, I think that's such a great gift that you're giving them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really big to me. It's important to me. I grew up with a great grandmother in independent living up in Portland, and we would visit her. And as a kid, you're scared of older people. Sometimes you have that fear that you don't really know. It's this ambiguity, right? They're different than me. They look different than me, or they act different than me. They live different than me. But I love seeing my great grandmother. After a couple times, you go in and you realize, okay, she's giving me cookies and letting me watch TV. This is great. I don't care
Yeah,
what she
it's
looks
not
like
so
or
bad.
sounds like. I just have to yell a little bit louder for her to hear me. That's all it is. So, I mean, I was really lucky. I was really lucky to have a great grandmother even around to be able to do that, to live in a communal setting. So I saw it from a very young age, but bringing young kids in, right? Like, you've probably seen it. The second somebody comes in with a baby or a young child, the room lights up. You can hear the excitement, right? Because that intergenerational dynamic of caring for somebody, seeing youth again, seeing youth come into the buildings, it's beneficial for both sides. It almost always is. One thing that I do every year is a haunted house, right? We bring the kids in. I've hosted at different communities and they trick or treat around the building and then we have a little haunted house and it's so fun. It opens the doors, kids aren't afraid anymore to go see somebody who's older. They understand what that looks like. And I think you're right, not having multi-generational dynamics as much anymore, especially in the United States. We don't have the opportunities in-house to do that. And so, again, empowering families, now that COVID has died down significantly, bring your kids in. Let's have an Easter egg hunt. Let's promote activities that bring in all of the community so that this conversation is a different focus now. It's, oh yeah, I've been to one of those places. It's not that bad. It's not like it was 15, 20 years ago. Not even close, not even 5 years ago, right? It changes every day. We elevate it every single day. So bringing kids in, opening up the doors for everybody, it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I love that. My last question for you, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about the way the industry serves older adults, what would it be?
Yeah, I think for me, this is kind of always something I've imagined. Have more fun with it, right? Like that's the biggest thing. I am most successful when I have a day where I come into work. I'm part of my town hall meeting. I sit in on bingo. I watch it get real competitive. I go to the Monday matinee movie, right? And I experience it. So I think we get caught up. We get caught up in state surveys. We get caught up in OSHA. We get caught up in resident complaints. We get caught up in staffing issues, right? And those are all major issues we do need to address. But sitting for a second, pausing, and remembering how lucky we are to work with these people, to get to work with, I mean, a lot of the time, real life time capsules, people who have seen things that I will never be able to truly understand. Seeing that, realizing that as a benefit, and understanding that I get to come to work with 100 of my best friends, 100 people who truly care about me at the end of the day. That's so fun. That is so fun. I couldn't go do that, working for Bank of America. I couldn't go do that working for a car dealership, right? It might be fun. Those things might be fun in different ways, but every single day, there's an opportunity to connect I just wish that people in this industry would take a moment, breathe every single day, and remember that if you prioritize the fun of it, the connection of it, you do your job better. So it's hard. It's easier said than done. I get in that loop, I get in that phase where it's like, gosh, today is just hard. And you can have hard days. But again, coming back and remembering, okay, yesterday was hard, but I get to go and be around people. I get to go around and be around people, period. That's a blessing. Being around people, you can make fun of it. You can have a good time doing it. I think that would be my magic wand wish.
I love that. I mean, there's a lot of people today who aren't around people on a regular basis either. You should appreciate that and enjoy
Yeah,
it while you can, I love that.
absolutely.
Brenna, thank you so much for this conversation today. I really appreciate it. So, as we wrap up today's episode, how can our audience connect with you or learn more about your work?
Yeah, I mean, my LinkedIn is probably the best go-to. Connect with me. I connect with just about everyone in this industry, outside of this industry. If you have ideas or you want to collaborate, especially if you're in the local area that I'm in, I'm big on events. Please reach out to me anytime. If you have questions, if you want to discover being an end-of-life doula too, I'm happy to connect you with resources to do that. But that's my direct cell phone number is somewhere on there. I'm a wild card. You can text or call me anytime. I know I say that now, but yeah, please get in touch with me. Or again, if you happen to know what building I'm in, I won't disclose it here. Come and say hi anytime. My door's always open. And if it's not, all you have to do is knock. So I love connecting with anybody and everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brenna. Appreciate it. I want to give a big thank you to Brenna Diede for sharing your heartfelt leadership approach, your experience as a certified end-of-life doula, and your actionable ideas around retention marketing and team culture. If you'd like to connect with Brenna, be sure to follow her on LinkedIn, like she said, and we'll make sure to put all of her info in the show notes so you can check out what her community is doing up in Oregon, and you can learn more about Cogier Senior Living. We hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, from marketing and sales to innovation, leadership, and the human side of aging. So I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases. And please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm grateful for your time and attention. Until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Brenna.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.